Today we are baking a chocolate sourdough zucchini bread that is fermented and refined sugar-free. It is just sweetened with some honey and maple syrup, and it is absolutely delicious. It is nice and chocolatey. It's got great flavor. It's a great way to use your zucchinis that I know are growing in your garden. So let's get baking. So we are going to start the bread by measuring out a 1/2 cup of sourdough starter. It could be discard or it can be active. Here it's discard just because I didn't have any active starter, but we're just going to place that into the bowl. As you see, I'm using my finger to get all the goodness out of there. You can use a spoon. I guess I'm just raised by wolves, so I use my fingers. And then we are going to top that off with 1 cup of water, and we are going to put that in the bowl with the sourdough starter. Now we are going to just mix that up just to kind of get that all combined. It's going to kind of look milky. That's what you want. I'm using a Dutch whisk, but you can totally use a fork, whatever you have. I just really like using a Dutch whisk. My mother-in-law got it for me and it works wonderfully. So now we are going to be using 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Here I'm using King Arthur, but you're welcome to use whatever brand that you want. That's just what I picked up at the grocery store. I use their bread flour, so I just decided to use their all-purpose flour. But like I said, whatever one you want to use, I prefer unbleached, but use whatever you have in your pantry. Honestly, that's what's best. And then now we are going to use 1 stick of super soft butter, not melted. We want it nice and room temperature, so it will be easy to mix. And we just are going to place that into the bowl. And now we are going to grab whatever we used to mix earlier. To mix the dough, we are going to just combine them together. Just mix it until everything is formed. There's no more flour. Get as much as you can off the side of the bowl, just so everything's all mixed together. But just mix and just keep going. You'll know when it's done. So as you can see, I'm really mixing it off. I'm getting it off the sides. And now you can see it's basically done. You can see that the texture is pretty moist. It's not super sticky. If you're finding it to be super sticky, I would add a little bit of flour by a tablespoon. But it shouldn't be sticky since you're using only 1 cup of water. And now we are going to cover this up and we are going to let it sit on our counter for 12 to 24 hours, and that is going to ferment the flour. And now it's the next day. We have fermented the flour mixture, and as you can see, I'm touching it. You can see that it's puffy. It fermented. That is a good sign. You want it to rise a little bit. It's not going to double or triple or anything like that, but it's going to rise. There's going to be some air in there. And now we need to shred our cucumbers, zucchini. We're not making cucumber bread, we're making zucchini bread. We're just gonna shred that zucchini nice and fine. This is the best way to do it. Some people use food processors and food process it that way, but I'm using that good old-fashioned cheese grater to grate my zucchini, and we're just gonna keep grating up until we get to the very end. And be careful, do not cut your finger off, almost like I did. I almost scraped my finger on the grater. So please be careful. We don't need to send anyone to the hospital for making this bread. And there we go. It is all nice and shredded. And now we are going to start taking out the water of the zucchini because zucchini is very hydrated. It has a high water content. So we're just going to pat it. You can use a nice kitchen towel and just put it all in there and squeeze. I didn't have any clean kitchen towels when I made this, so a paper towel will do. And then honestly, I just started using my hands, and we're just going to squeeze the water out. As you can see, the more I squeeze, the more water that will start to come out. I was really trying not to make a mess here, but I always make a mess in the kitchen, so that's okay. That means it's going to be really good if there's a little bit of a mess. But as you can see, all this water is coming out. I'm going to get as much as I can out. Don't try to get it all out. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It will add just some moisture into the bread, which is good, so we don't have a dry zucchini bread, because who likes dry zucchini bread? But squeeze it as hard as you can. Get that anger out, take it out on your zucchini, but we're just going to keep squeezing the water out. And I got a couple little pieces still left in there, so I'm just going to squeeze the water out of that and transfer that into the bowl. We're transferring it into a clean bowl. We are not mixing it into the sourdough ferment just yet. And then now we are going to be cracking in 2 eggs for the, I would say this is the wet mixture. So we're cracking 2 eggs in there. Now we're going to use a 1/2 cup of maple syrup. I did not have enough maple syrup to do 1/2 cup, but that is okay. Use as much as you'd like. Just be careful, since we're using maple syrup and honey, the more you add, the more moisture you're adding, so you may have to add a little bit more flour to make sure that the bread has a nice consistency. So now we're adding in a 1/2 cup of honey into the mixture, and make sure you get every drop out. I know it likes to stick in there. And now we are using some vanilla extract. Measure with your heart. I love vanilla extract, so I'm using 3 capfuls. Use as much as you'd like. I will not tell you how much you got to put in there, because honestly, I love vanilla extract. And now we're just going to mix everything up. We're just going to combine it really nice and well. We don't want to like over mix it, because we don't want to really whip the eggs, but just kind of combine everything together, just like that. And that's what it looks like. This is super easy to put together. And now we're just adding in a 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And then we are going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. These are going to help the bread rise in the oven. They're leavening agents, I want to say that's what they're called. So we're going to use both of them. And then now we are going to put some cinnamon in. I want to say I put around 1 teaspoon of cinnamon in. You can also add other seasonings like clove, allspice, to give it that really nice flavor if you'd like. I just didn't happen to do that this time, but I think those would add a really nice flavor as well. And we're just going to stir those in. We're going to incorporate them. We're not going to go too crazy with the stirring, just so we don't really whip up those eggs. And now we are going to add the chocolate into the sourdough ferment that we had sitting on our counter overnight. We are doing 1/4 of a cup of, I used Hershey cocoa powder. Use whatever cocoa powder you have. That's just the one that I had in my pantry. And we are also adding in some coffee into the mixture as well. I'm just doing 1 coffee scoop. This really enhances the chocolate flavor. It really allows for a deep chocolate profile to come through. It does have a little bit of a coffeeness taste to it, so if you don't like coffee, you could totally skip that. You don't have to do that. And now we're going to be mixing this together. I started with a fork, but as you see, I transitioned to using my hands to really incorporate that, because I don't know why cocoa powder is so hard to incorporate into anything. But now I'm just mixing it in with my hands, just really get it in there. This step takes a little bit, just to really incorporate in there. You can kind of see that it's starting to really stick in there, and just keep going until it is fully incorporated. As you can see, it's really nice and incorporated. You don't see too much white flour residue left from the ferment. And then now we are going to be adding the wet ingredients into the dry ferment that we had overnight with the chocolate. And now we're just going to stir that in. Just keep stirring. It's gonna seem like it's not ever gonna come together, but it does. I switched hands because it hurt my arm. It was a nice little workout for my arm. So as you can see, I'm switching my hands just to really get that mixed in there. You're just gonna keep mixing this until it is all combined and that it's not chunky. It does take a little bit of time, so have a little bit of patience. But as you see, it comes nicely together. It's really coming into a nice batter for the chocolate zucchini bread, and just keep mixing, mixing, mixing until that is all together. And trust me, I was not mixing that fast. I did have to speed up the video, so this video was not 100 hours long, but just keep mixing it. It's coming together. Switch your hands so your arms don't get tired out. I guess this is a sign I need to work out a little bit more. But who knew that making zucchini bread could have been my arm workout for the weekend. So as you can see, it's really coming together. That is a great zucchini bread batter. We're just going to keep mixing Now that is ready, I actually, at the end, I decided to add in 2 tablespoons of flour. That is a 2 tablespoon flour scooper. So I added that in. I'm just going to fold that in just to kind of help with the batter. The batter was a little bit too liquidy. So I just added in that. That was just the perfect amount. You might not have to add it, really kind of gauge looking at your batter to see if it's a little like kind of soupy in a way. If yours doesn't need it, you can totally leave it out. I just felt like my batter needed that. But now you can see it is the right consistency to now place it in a buttered tin. This step is really important. Do not overfill your bread tin. Do not overfill your bread tin. It will not bake properly. As you can see, I am filling it up just almost to the top, but there is a little bit of a space. This bread will make 2 loaves. And now we are going to put it in the oven at 360 for about an hour. And there you go. There's your final product. I hope you enjoy this recipe and like, comment, and subscribe.